Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, Game Over Vancouver. My name is Marky Sianquita. I am back from my vacation, still slightly jet lagged, but I am nevertheless excited to recap the Canucks once again with you guys, even though the game was not as it was not fun at all. But today I'm joined by a very special guest. If my guest would like to introduce himself.
Mark, thanks for having me. If you were having any trouble getting over your jet lag, that game probably did not help you. I am Clay Imoo, also known as Canuck Clay, former Game Over host, Game Over Vancouver host from the past couple seasons. Have my own YouTube channel, and known Mark for actually many, almost a decade through church circles. So I'm very excited to collab with him tonight and be a guest and just make some new friends, revisit some old ones, and talk about our favorite hockey team. So thank you, Mark, for having me with you.
Of course, and we would like to thank you for being on with us. Erwin Aquino says in chat, "Game Over Vancouver," indeed, and honestly, that's one of the games where I'm just glad that it's game over.
I know especially coming off the great or the decent performance on Wednesday, right?
Exactly, like, before the game even started, like Demko came back, EP40 came back. The team was coming off of, I would say, one of their best games in a while. And the storylines coming into it was that, like, we are 1-4 in the last 5 games, looking to bounce back against a team starting an AHL goalie. But unfortunately, everything does fall to it just falls. But before
and I don't know if you're old enough, Mark, to remember this. Tokarski was the goaltender for the World Juniors for Canada, like many years ago. He's 35 years old now, so that's how far I remember. And it's not like he was bad; he was fine when he was a junior. But he's 35 years old, and I think, did they say this is his third career shutout? Like he's only had 3.
I think I remember reading that, but I don't think I heard that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, we should. Yeah, I know we can't get shots on net, but gosh, we're going to talk about this. But those 2 golden opportunities, the power plays in the third period, you got to do more than what we did.
Of course, man. I completely agree. But before we get into the thick of it, I want to give a quick shout out to our main sponsor of the show, Hyperdrive Hockey. Hyperdrive Hockey is all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries. Whatever and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all of your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts on the Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. So yeah, I'll just jump straight into it with the 2 power plays, or I'd say like all of the power plays in this game, especially. I think it was very evident that, and the power play really highlighted it, where the Canucks had their chances, but they went into those chances very sloppy. A lot of the times there would be passes going into the slot, and it wasn't. I'd say half the time it would be a cane stick getting in the way, but the majority of the time it was a mispass. It was a mispass, or the pass was too hard and it hits the Canuck stick and it deflected off of the boards. Other half of the time it would just end up behind a Canucks player and it would be a missed opportunity. What did you think of, I guess, like the overall performance?
No, you're right, and Mark, those are the times where the Canucks actually gained the zone. I'm sure you heard Shorty at least 3 or 4 times. He talked about how difficult Carolina was making it for the Canucks to gain that zone. They're playing their little mini diamond at the 1-2-1 or the 1-3, but it's unfathomable to me how you have such a good puck handler like Hughes, and Petey's good with the puck. Miller, when he's concentrating, he's good with the puck. Garland's hard to check, so I don't know why they have such a hard time getting it over the blue line. And it's not even like they're predictable with their drop passes. There's no confidence. So you're right. Once they gain the zone, they're fumbling pucks off their sticks. But that was, I don't know. I remember that last one. Chatfield took 2 on PD, but that last one they couldn't even get in the zone. And at the most inopportune time, it was so frustrating. But you're right. It was kind of indicative of the entire night for the Canucks. Very sloppy. Don't you remember we met at the second intermission to do our tech test.
Yeah.
Then we went back to the game, and the start of third period was brutal. Like guys were falling down. Guys,
It sucked.
You saw that, right?
Yeah. I was going into we did a mini, I guess, tech rehearsal of the stream going into the third. And Clay and I were talking. It was like, okay, hopefully like the Canucks didn't turn it around. But unfortunately they turned around twice, and it literally got worse. They turned around twice, fell on their feet. And honestly, one thing I will say, Erwin Aquino in chat again says that the team didn't have any cohesiveness, blame lack of chemistry, and inability to adjust players with any regularity of lines and personnel. And I didn't want to say this early on in the season, just because of how good last season was. But I feel like the chemistry has been so off, and you could blame it on the Hughes Miller situation. You could blame it on Točić constantly switching out lines, and plus, like, just to add on that, like, you have both Höglander and Brandstrom healthy scratch, with Max Sasson and Forbert coming in, so a lot of things are moving around.
Yeah.
So
you're so right, Mark. That chemistry thing's huge, and I don't think it can be, it can't be overstated. Like it's so important. And we talked. I know you talked about this in your show. I talked about these on my shows. The Canucks were turning over 1/3 of their team, right? With Heinen, with Sherwood, with Forbert, with Desharnais, with DeBrusque. I'm sure I'm missing a couple other guys. Then Brandstrom shows up pretty early. Lankinen, but every team turns over 5 or 6 guys. So it's not like it's a condition that's only unique to the Vancouver Canucks. So fine, they have all these new guys to work in, and then you're right, the Miller PD alleged rift. Then you guys got guys hurt. So you'd think they're professionals and they should be good enough to figure that out. But yes, I think Erwin's point of lack of chemistry is very good. But what scares me, Mark, and I know we're going to get into this too, is really Dakota Joshua's not a core player. He good for him for battling back, but he's not a difference maker. The only difference maker that's out now is Hronek, but do we win that game with him? I'm not so sure. So, like, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I totally agree with the point about how every single team switches out core players. But if you really think about it, Clay, we didn't lose any, I guess, quote unquote core players in the offseason. Like you could argue Zadorov possibly. I'd say like our biggest loss in the offseason was Ian Cole, and Ian Cole, like he was such a rock in our defensive core that like losing him was big, but that was it really.
Yeah, exactly. Who would have thought that when in an offseason where you lose Lindholm, Zadorov, that you're saying that Ian Cole was probably the biggest difference maker. But it's true. He's solid. And, you know, everyone say, oh, Derek Forbert will replace Ian Cole. I don't know if you watched it. Forbert, I don't remember one pass that he completed successfully. I remember him putting it off the boards a couple times. I remember him putting it in the, like, I don't know. I'm sure he's a good guy. Maybe he's good in the room, but I haven't seen much of him contributing on the ice, right?
No, I completely agree. I think the majority of Forbert's passes, they were complete. They just ended up, if his passes were going towards the boards, then I would say it was a 100% completion in that sense.
Yeah.
But
pretty big target if you're targeting the boards, but he did go 100% to the boards. That's true.
Of course. One thing that I just because we were talking about this earlier too, the production from our top 6 this game has, at least like this game specifically, and keep in mind that like a lot of the past, I'd say 10 games of me watching, it was majority of it was on my phone at 11 a.m. in the Philippines.
Right.
But at least like looking at this game specifically, the top 6 has been sloppy. It's been sloppy in general. Like I think I'd say other than Garland, because of the fact that Garland, he's still able to contribute even without being on the stat sheet. But you have players like Besser, who's been slacking a lot, and I think the alleged rift between PD and Millsy has kind of been helping because of the fact that there hasn't been any, I guess, media coverage on him slumping. But watching this game, I barely saw him move his feet aside from, I guess, one rush. He's been what's it called? I feel like a lot of his game lately has mainly been him waiting for the puck and looking for a tap in. But if the passes are going towards the boards and not on Besser's stick, then it's not really working out. What do you think?
Yeah, well, he's not getting an assist from forward, that's for sure. but you're so right in that. If you look at the 3 of the last 4 games for the Canucks, they got shut out against Nashville. They got shut out tonight. They scored 1 goal, Garland's power play goal on Wednesday in a game that we said they were good, and then they had that one anomaly game with loss in OT where Miller had his 4 points. But you're right, top 6 is gone. Like DeBrusk, we know is streaky. Unfortunately, he's on the bottom end of a streak. Miller hasn't done much since he got back, except for that one game. And Besser is slow, and that's why I think I won't put words in your mouth, but more and more people are saying, yeah, don't re-sign this guy for anything more than 5 years going forward, and depending on money. And then PD, I think we should talk about PD because he returned to the lineup, as did Demko, and you and I both agreed. We were talking off air that PD was noticeable. Like he was, he's not always the strongest on the skates, but he drew those 2 penalties in the Chatfield. He had a nice play in the first period where he made some really nice zone entries and everything. So he just missed the net high on one of the power plays. So overall, I noticed him. I know you noticed him. But then you look at a stat sheet, no points, -1, and no shots, no blocks, no hits. And that's surprising because I'm not just making excuses for him. I noticed him tonight. You could argue he was one of the top 3 forwards for the Canucks, but he's got zeros, Mark, across the stat sheet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And to be fair, at the end of the day, he has tendonitis. I personally have tendonitis because of a trombone injury, and I know what that feels. Where it's as soon as you start to get back into the groove, it's gonna flare up again, and it's never gonna go away. But I think in general, just looking past everything, looking past, I guess, where purely hockey, PD is the 5th highest player in the league. And for us and for media to say that, hey, he had a pretty good game when he doesn't contribute on the score sheet, I hate to be critical about it because of the fact that, he is coming back from an injury.
Yes.
But if this is our standard towards PD, where it's it's like a 16-year-old dog who's able to run and fetch a stick, and we're hey, good boy. If that's the I guess kind of reaction that we're gonna give towards his game, then
if you know a dog that got to 16 years old, that's pretty good.
Exactly. But that's the thing. We're congratulating him on, I guess, something that would be that is impressive if they are a 16-year-old dog. But PD is not a 16-year-old dog. PD is in his prime. PD is getting paid $11.6 million a year.
Yes.
For the next 8 years.
Yeah.
I think that rifts aside, we need to see more, and we need to see him contribute. And he's back. We could see parts of his game coming back. There are times where I wish that he'd shoot, but at the same time, him not shooting did result in him drawing 2 penalties.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's a tough watch.
Mark, that's a really good point, Mark. That's why you're a good host, man. That's a really good point.
Thank you.
No, because I always say in life, expectations. When you don't have clear expectations, that's the biggest source of conflict in any life, in ministry, in relationships, in marriages, and friendships, whatever, in competitive hockey teams. So isn't it funny how when he signs his contract and we expect him to be top 5 in the league per his contract, then he has tendonitis, he's away from the game, he has a slow start, he's fighting with the other star player, and now our expectations are, okay, just try your best and try and contribute. And what a crazy world. What a crazy world. And here's a guy who a couple years ago, or 3 years ago before his other contract, was holding out a little bit, saying he wants to make sure that we're on the correct path to winning. So I like him. I really want him. He's not my favorite player, but I want him to succeed. We need him to succeed, but he's got to do his part too. And I know a lot of people in this market have lost, patience in him, Mark. But then others will jump to his defense in this whole PD Miller thing, which I know we're going to talk about later because, it's almost choosing the lesser two evils right now.
Exactly. That's literally how it feels like.
Yeah.
I'll take a quick, I guess, pause on that conversation just to give a shout out to everyone in chat. I'll say we, just because I do consider Clay to be Game Over alumni. But we do appreciate everyone coming out to the stream. Thank you to everyone in chat. If you guys do like what you guys are watching and hearing, don't forget to please like and subscribe. David replies to Alfred. Alfred says we got goalie tonight. I do agree. We did get goalie tonight. I will say, without Demko, it would have been at least 4-5-0.
Yeah,
I'd say. Let's see. Canucks execution was quite off though for the Canucks. They did not score on Dustin, which is fair. But at the end of the day, if you look at stats, it's a shutout, and good on him. Let's see. Good to see Demer and PD back. Hey Scott, how's it going? Very good to see Demer and PD back for sure. Honestly, all we need is Hronek, and then I feel like as soon as Hronek comes back, that's when we can actually analyze the team and see how we're doing, I guess, without the whole injury thing.
Yeah, we're going undefeated when Hronek comes back. Exactly.
Yeah, of course, 100%. That's the only reason why we're losing, right? Yeah. We need Dak. Actually, Dak and Hronek. Alfred does say. And then David also mentions that the forward high sticking penalty, which he took late in the third, was stupid. That said, as much as the Canucks PP misfired, the penalty kill was excellent with no goals allowed. I think the PK was good, but I will give credit. It's bad credit, but credit to the Hurricanes for not scoring in the last 6 games on the power play.
Yeah. Did it feel like, too, Mark, that it felt like the Hurricanes weren't really trying in the third period?
No, they weren't. No,
And then-
Shorty, sorry to cut you off, but Shorty literally mentioned that it looks like the Canes they're just trying to run down the clock, which is what they were doing.
And Dave Tomlinson was joking about counting the number of times that they flipped the puck out, which is sadly the Canucks' offensive strategy, not their defensive strategy. Oh man, there's something that you mentioned in your last answer. Okay, no, whatever. I'll get to it.
It's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a very, very, very boring game. If Shorty is out there, okay, for one, Shorty and Dave Tomlinson going into the third, they straight up said, we are contractually. Oh, sorry, I'm recovering as well from I guess a cough.
No!
They are contractually obligated to choose a most electrifying play, and they straight up said that they struggled to find one this game.
And they almost changed it to the puck that went up to Karski's right skate.
Yes.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yes. And Shorty also did a Garfield impression.
Yeah.
So I think that just speaks to how little the Hurricanes tried.
Yeah.
And you know what? All to them. Like, if you were playing against the Canucks, like the Canucks tonight, if you don't need to try and if you need to conserve your energy, by all means, you gotta shut out of it. That's
right. Tomlinson called Garland Garfield, and then what did Shorty say?
Lasagna.
Oh, by the way, I remember what I was gonna say. Tokarski, remember I opened the show by saying I remember him playing in the World Juniors for Canada, 2009, man, 2009.
2009.
So I was 15 years ago.
I was 11.
Yeah. You're 11. Thank you for making me feel even older than I already am. 2009, I was still 35.
Hey, man. I was going to say, you look pretty young for 28. So.
Well, thank you. I will take it. I will take it. So, but yeah, in all seriousness, so where's the urgency for a team that, and it was reversed. It looked like that the Canucks were the ones that played last night. It's so crazy. And now the Canucks get Toronto, the team that Carolina whooped last night. So, it's going to be one of those weird transitivity things where Carolina beat Toronto and then Carolina beat... Oh, no, that doesn't make sense. Carolina went 2-0 in this little round robin. So we just got to beat Toronto. tomorrow. Do you think we will?
I think that would be the most Vancouver and the most Toronto game to happen if we do beat Toronto.
Yeah.
I feel like if Austin Matthews is gonna come back from his slump, it'll be against us.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't know, man. Any Maple Leaf game, I throw every single piece of hockey knowledge I have out the window because the opposite always happens.
Who's got the show tomorrow? Is it you?
Let me actually double check.
Well, I'm just curious. Well, if it's not you,
good shout out.
Yeah, you'd probably know if it was you.
No, it's not me.
Yeah,
it is Kaja, and no
crossover, right?
Yes, it's Kaja, and it's also a crossover. And to everyone in chat, if you guys don't know, Kaja is also a Maple Leafs fan, which I think is it's like,
so she can cross over with herself then.
Yeah, basically, like she'll have herself on 2 screens.
Game over first. That would be cool.
But yeah. Okay. Going back to chats. Scott White says Carolina is a good team. I can't totally rip the Canucks apart for the loss, but I also wasn't watching intently. It was a tough game with not a lot of flow. And that's the thing. Carolina is a great team, but they didn't have to play like a great team in order to beat the Canucks.
Point. That is a very good point. Yeah, it's and you know, the one thing I was at the game, Mark, early in the season where Carolina beat us in Vancouver, and I remember that game. Like I was amazed at how fast they looked. Jarvis and Svechnikov and Natchez and all these guys. Tonight, I actually don't think Carolina's speed. They look like a tired team, honestly, but they did what they need to do. You know, Jordan Staal's very fortuitous goal in the first period. It was actually, he didn't get all of it, but I think it just caught Demko off guard. And the Svechnikov, where Susie somehow played he played the high side of him, giving him a clear path to the net. And then I didn't like the way Juleson or Miller just kind of swung at him. So you just see an unmotivated team right now, unfortunately. So, but it's not like Carolina dominated. Like they only had 20 shots themselves, but they did block 27 shots. So when you're looking at, you know, we only getting 14 shots a net. Even if you get a third of those through at 27, then now we have 23 shots, right?
Yeah, and like I think the sad part is that like we were trying to. You could tell by the lineups that Tachi was pulling out that we were trying to go all out, which is so sad to say, because for one we played the lotto line. We played the lotto line with I think like 6 minutes left. And immediately Quinn Hughes ices the puck. And we get another penalty and don't get a single good chance on the empty nets.
Right.
But I don't know. That's just like this one game, looking at it, it was bad. I think overall it was tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, was there anything else that you want to add?
No, it felt like okay. This is kind of a bigger picture question. Do you think that the players have tuned out Tocchet? Or do you think? Yeah.
Ooh. That's a very good question.
Or should we save that for a second or third period?
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna use that as a transition. Going into the second period. I also want to use Scott White's Scott White's comment to transition into that, where they are still in the wild card. But before we get into that, I want to give a quick shout out to the Game Over Network Patreon. If you guys don't know, this is our first full season as an independent network. And with the, I guess, economic climates of both Canadian media and hockey media in general, or other way around, hockey media and the Canadian media in general, we need all the help that we can get. And to, I guess, help support us, we do have an open Patreon. And if you are looking for any reasons on why to join the Patreon, we will be starting private events that you guys can join, exclusive merch designs and discounts, extra privileges on our Discord and YouTube, more access to behind the scenes stuff of building a media company from scratch, plus access to join live streams and to add your own commentary. One thing that we were actually, just to go like completely off track, is we were actually, just because of the fact that a lot of the Game Over hosts are gamers, we were actually thinking about doing like party games with viewers, which might be fun. And if you wanted any more info on that, come join the Patreon, and you'll be one of the first ones to be in the know. But
That's
yes.
awesome. You're doing all this cool stuff after I leave. Man. You know why? They waited for the dinosaur to leave before they started to introduce all these cool things because they knew that I wouldn't be able to figure it out.
Hey man, you're technically back, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you are also welcome back anytime you want.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. But yeah, like we were talking about in the Discord that we want to do like a Jackbox night.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, that'd be good.
Which I feel like would be fun, but at the same time, I know that like humors would be mixed. But I'm curious to see how that would go. I feel like if we just like leave it to hockey roasts, it would be great.
Yes, that's true. Jackbox, Jackbox, man, that goes south pretty quickly though.
We'll see. Hey, we will see.
Love it.
But yes, anyways, hockey, Canucks, Game Over Vancouver. But yeah, so I'll start it off with I guess like Scott White's comment where they are still in the wild card and they got a gift with like Flames Kings game being suspended, and the overarching concern that I have for this season is, are we still trying to contend for a cup? Because if you think about it, like, sure, we haven't played full strength. That's the excuse that we've been saying this entire time.
Right.
Like, oh, we're not winning because Demko's back when we just lost a game with Demko. We haven't been winning because PD's been slacking. We haven't been winning because of the fact that Dak is out.
Yeah.
But I think because like this is game 41, we have 41 more games to go. The question has to be asked, like, are we still a cup contender? And I personally, I'm in the boat that we absolutely need to be in the win now mentality, regardless of our stat sheet. Like, we have Quinn Hughes playing better than he did last season, which last season he won the Norris, and he's playing better than he was last year.
Yeah.
We have Demko and Lankinen and Seelovs, if you add that, making less than I believe 7 mil, like 6-7 mil in total.
Right.
Like, cheap contract from Demko. We have a cheap contract from Hughes. Plus Besser's contract is expiring this year. Like, there's no way Hughes doesn't get paid more than PD. There's no way Demko doesn't get paid more than at least, in my opinion, 7-8 mil, which a lot. It makes a lot of, I guess, like the cheap contracts, quote unquote, that we have obsolete if we put this season if we put this season aside. I was seeing people be like, oh, we should just do this next year, and I'm like, I don't even think we have it next year. I think we I think it's sad that if we were to change our mindset right now and be like, okay, we lost, like, this season is now going is gonna be flushed down the toilet because this team isn't good anymore. Like, literally last year, like, the only key piece, like I said earlier in the show today, the only real key pieces that we lost were Ian Cole and Zadorov, but most of the core was still there. Like, I don't think it's a problem of personnel. Sure, we need a top 4D, but this can still be a Stanley Cup winning team. But I think, and like both Kaja and Zach, I believe, would agree with this, is, and it sucks to say, but coaching change.
Wow.
Yeah, and it sucks to say because at the end of the day, like, as you mentioned, like, are the players trying to rifting against Tocchet?
Right.
Tocchet did say, I believe, I'm not too sure how long ago this was, just because I was still in the Philippines, but I remember there was an interview where he said that he doesn't know why like certain players are dumping and chasing the puck. When that like if you watch a game, especially live, it's like one of the toughest things to watch is dump and chase when you're down.
Yes.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Clay?
Yeah. So some good thoughts. Your original question, Mark, though, do we change our expectations? Do we still go for the cup? You know, what's so fascinating is I think it's going to be vital that the Canucks management, Rutherford, Alvin, they need to decide that within the next 2 or 3 weeks, because you have Hronek coming back, and Joshua, yes, great story, but he's not a difference maker this year, and I think we'd agree on that. But if you think that you can still contend for the cup, you got to get out of this wild card spot first, because you're either playing Winnipeg or Vegas. That's not an easy out, right? At least get to third place, and then you're playing one of Edmonton or LA. Your chances are a little bit better. But then that has to motivate and steer all of your decisions of getting assets for expiring UFAs like Besser, exactly, or Lankinen. Do you what do you do about personnel decision? Do you actually try and beef up your D this year? There's so many things, Mark, that I think are predicated on what they decide. Because if they think that they're a cup contender, and I contend that this team's window isn't open for that long. You're right. Hughes is going to demand 12 or 13 million when this contract runs up. Demko when his contract runs up. So I would dare say that their competitive window is only in the next 2 or 3 years, and it's crazy to think that, considering they only made the playoffs last year for the first time in forever. But I don't think they have the competitive window that I think a lot of Canucks fans hope that they do. So, long way of saying, to answer your question, Mark, I do think that I don't know which way they're going to go. I don't see this team contending for a cup. Could I see them sneaking out one playoff round victory? Sure, just like last year. But a lot of things have to go right, and they don't have to go undefeated after Hronek comes back, but they got to play like 600 hockey, 650 hockey to climb out of even this wild card spot. I don't know. I kind of with you. I wouldn't throw away your hopes for the team entirely, but it's going to take such a mature, humble decision to say this one isn't our year, but every decision we make, trade deadline offseason, is about next year at the risk of not making the playoffs this year. I don't know. I don't know if Alvin and Rutherford will go for that, but I think it's the right thing to do, don't you? Sorry, I shouldn't lead that. Do you think that's the right way to go?
It's honestly tough to say.
Yeah.
I think, and also one thing that I didn't mention that also does make our window shorter is JT Miller's prime. Is also low-key being wasted if we don't try to at least contend. I think if the plan is to make big plays to contend for next season, we're gonna have to make a change now. Like you said, next 2 to 3 weeks, you're absolutely correct. Like, we have to do something now. Scott White's in chats says that the next 7 games are all against playoff teams too. So not only do we need to if we have to make changes soon, we also need to win those games. So pretty low expectations, I think, but I don't know. That's the thing that's tough, and it's funny because if you start thinking about what changes do need to be made, you see this in your chat actually all the time, Clay. We probably need to trade either Garland or Besser.
Yep.
Garland, if Besser was playing like a 40 goal season Besser, I would say that even though it hurts and it sucks to say this every time, but Garland would make the most sense. But I think at this point now, I think if we're not trying to win this season, we trade Besser to a contender.
Yep.
We trade Besser to a contender. They give us back assets, and then just like the Horvat trade, we flip those assets for another a Hronek light.
Yeah, Mark, you're so right, because obviously you're not going to get an equal quality player Besser if you're trading with a contender, because they're going to not want to give away. So you're right. You get futures like draft picks and prospects, and then utilize them. You're exactly right. It's too bad because Besser, he's had his three 3-year contracts, but he's not getting any younger. We talked about this. He's not getting any faster. Sometimes doesn't even look like he plays with a whole lot of confidence all the time. So now's the time to move him. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think you're right. I think you're right.
No, that's fair. 100%. Also, a quick shout out to chat, because chat is slowly popping off. We have Alfred Cliffhang Canucks saying, in all seriousness, in the history of the Canucks, when they make the playoffs for the first time in whatever, the year after they regress, I feel like this is the year after we're regressing. Next years are the best years to come, like the Sedin era.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, the future is pretty grim. The only thing that like would make, I guess, like the future bright again is Tom Verlander just popping off. But like at the same time, if we're making reaches to that,
Yeah.
the future's gonna be pretty grim.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's a great call about Willander, because you know how Besser had his like 5-game cameo when his college career ended. Quinn had his 5-game cameo. Then people were asking me, "Well, aren't you excited about Willander?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm not sure if the Canucks are fighting for a playoff spot if you just insert Willander, because I think in the Besser and Hughes years it was because the Canucks were already out of it and there was nothing to lose." So you could argue Willander immediately becomes the second best right-handed defenseman on the team, but I don't know about that. But maybe one small blessing, if the Canucks are out of contention, is that you can bring Willander in for that 5-game cameo without, hurting your chances to win. Although some would argue that he still helps you, even if you're in a playoff race. But I agree with you. Like Lekkerimäki and Willander to me are no-fly zones for sure.
Oh, for sure. Like and this is my Canuck fan bias, but I love more Swedish players on the team.
How many more you want, man?
Hey, man, give me Sandin Pelinka as well.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, that's for sure. For sure.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, speaking of which, quick aside, who do you think is going to win 4 Nations?
Oh, I don't think Canada wins this year.
Yeah.
I kind of want. I think for storyline, I kind of want the States to win. Yeah. Just to give the utmost respect to Johnny Gaudreau.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Because like, I don't know if you saw, but in the World Juniors, Team USA had a Johnny Gaudreau jersey up the entire time. So I personally, hopefully, I do hope they win. I hope that doesn't sound un-Canadian to me to not root for Canada this year. It's just, I don't know. I look at our goalies, and I get sad. Because as a kid, I grew up with Broder and Luongo and Carey Price. Yeah. So, yeah. And plus, like, it's going to be a little bit easier now that I get to at least cheer on, like, Hughes and Demko.
Yeah. So, Hughes and Miller. Demko's
Hughes and Miller. Sorry.
Yeah.
I meant to say Miller. But.
Yeah, Demko would have made it if I think he would have made it over Swayman if he was healthy. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't see Canada winning. They got awesome. Like every team has got great firepower up front, but then you go through the D. I'd say that Canada's D is equivalent to the U.S., but it's just then the goaltending. It's night and day. It's night and day.
Fair.
Yeah. Okay,
fair.
That was just a quick aside.
No.
All right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that Canada. I think the Canucks, they do beat the Maple Leafs tomorrow, and then we're all laughing and we're all giddy for 2 days.
Fair. I think it's exciting. People are at first people were kind of bagging on the Four Nations because of the fact that it's not an All-Star game.
Yeah.
But at the same time, players have been itching to wear their flag on their jersey for the longest time.
For sure.
And
the last 2 Olympics were not professionals, right? The last 2,
but the next one I believe will be.
Yeah.
But like you have all of these players just like, as a kid, like even myself, when I had my 1 year, playing in like pee wee hockey before it got too expensive, because I made the smart financial decision at 10 years old to play goalie. Which I remember as soon as like my parents were watching in the stands, I immediately go into the crease and they see my position and I look at my parents and my dad's like, my wallet. But like even at that point, I was like, you know what? I have a chance to play for Canada. I obviously did not have a chance to play for
Yeah.
Canada, but that's the dream that you have, and that's the dream that a lot of these players will be able to at least take advantage of at Four
That's true.
Nations. I feel like they'll at least give a lot more energy to Four Nations versus an All-Star game. So,
Yeah. You should go back and play goalie for the Philippines, man.
dude, you know what? I don't know if you've been, I don't know if you know anything about Philippines hockey, but they've been popping off recently.
Yeah, well, I think you remember I was there in the summer, so I was gonna
Right.
ask you about your trip off stream.
Yeah.
We won't bore everyone with our Philippines
good.
travel, but they did. Yeah, I definitely saw that they were having like a little charity game against. They called it Team Canada. I'm not sure who. I think it was just Canadian guys that live there.
It's
Whatever.
Canadian
But yeah.
expats.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'll see you in donning the Filipino flag then. The uniform one day.
We'll see. Going back to chat though,
Yeah.
David W. Mentions that so this coming off season among players under contract to the Canucks, it's Besser and Suter who are UFAs. Sasson is an RFA. Di Giuseppe, Forbert, Brandstrom. Oh, Brandstrom's RFA. Forbert, Di Giuseppe, UFA. Joseph Briseball, Lankinen. That's a lot of players that we have to sign.
It is, but there aren't a lot of big names.
Yeah, thankfully, but I think obviously priority would be to sign Besser. Besser is one of those players where I love him off ice and he's a great player on ice.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can sign him for a decent amount, but I guess going back to the original topic, with I guess a lot of people saying that this is the season of regression, would next year would changes this year still allow the Canucks to compete next year, or would we still be regressing?
Yeah, of the main roster, Besser, Suter, and Di Giuseppe, and Forbert and Juleson. So I think they already have Lekkerimäki in Besser's spot. He might not score 40 goals just yet, but I think that's the hope, right? Besser is 23rd overall. Lekkerimäki's picked 15th, but I think that's the hope. So every time I say I'm okay with either trading or walking away from Besser, it's because I do hope that Lekkerimäki can develop into that player. So if Besser's your main, and if you can re-sign Lankinen, I know it's gonna, as you mentioned, it might be at the cost of $3 or $4 million, then plus Demko's $5 million for one more year. That's okay. That's okay. So I actually don't think they're going to regress that much, depending on, of course, what they do with that money. But I don't think we would have thought they would regress this much. We all knew that last year was kind of all the stars aligned, right? Health and everything. A high-scoring team before the All-Star break. But I also don't think we're as bad as we are this year, honestly, Mark. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, and if that means battling for second or third as opposed to division lead, I'll take that next year. No guarantees, obviously, but that's my hope.
Fair. No, it's totally understandable. I think the expectations are flipped between this season and last season.
Sure.
But yeah, before we get into the third stream period, nothing is perfect in chat. Actually brings up a good point. And is it time to bring DPD up from the AHL? I've only heard of good things about DPD in the AHL. Even him being an all-star. From I guess the few Abbotsford games that I've seen though, he does seem pretty green. I think he's in a sense, in terms of play style, who he'd be replacing is kind of like a Noah Juleson. And if he plays better than Noah Juleson, or if we could at least Space Jam morph Lord Noah Juleson on the PK and remove him playing and remove the regulation time Noah Juleson, not regulation time, but even strength time, and at least mix that with DPD, I'd see him doing pretty well. It's just tough because of the fact that there's a difference between calling him up in the middle of the season versus Archie Baines last season.
Right.
Where Archie Baines was an all-star in the AHL last season, but as soon as he was called up, he was very obvious that he was too green for the NHL. But the difference is that you're only playing like less than 10 minutes as a forward versus more as a top 6D. What are your thoughts?
Right. So you bring DPD. Yeah, so I agree with you. I've been to a couple of Abbotsford games, and yeah, you like his size, you like how steady he is, but I do think he is green, and I really think as much as it's nice to see new faces, I think it's a bit early. There's no need to rush him. And who's he replacing? Left side, obviously not Hughes, probably not Susie. So it's either Forbert or Branstrom, and Branstrom can't even get in the lineup. And I would say Branstrom is better than DPD at least right now. The thing is, you know how we talked about the Canucks don't score. They got shut out 3-0, 2-0, 2-1. But at the same time, those defensive performances were pretty good, right? That Nashville game, they only allowed one goal where the other, I'll put it this way, 2 of them were empty netters. And then tonight, I thought defensively they were fine. I thought against Washington, they were fine, right? It was an overtime goal. Yeah, the overtime gaffes are kind of annoying. But as much as people want Branstrom to play, it's because Tocchet probably wants, especially when Hughes was gone, but even with Hughes there, he wants to play a defensive structure. And you could actually say that Susie Myers, Forbert, Juleson, and Desharnais, yeah, and Hughes, they've actually been pretty good as a defensive unit. It's the offense that I think seems to have dried up. So yeah, they'll have their bonehead plays once in a while for sure, but I think they put more emphasis on defense, i.e. Branstrom, than not Branstrom, than on offense where Branstrom would actually help you. And Tocchet doesn't want to make that move for whatever reason. I heard Branstrom's analytics aren't great. So all to say, I'm not sure if the time is right for a DPD to get in because he's left side. If he's a right shot guy, then I would have no problem putting him in over Juleson or Desharnais right now. Yeah.
No, that's fair. I honestly, I think Branstrom would be the perfect player under Bruce Boudreau Canucks, where it's free flowing. But you do have a point in the sense that, what's it called? The top 6 as a defensive structure is solid.
Sure.
But it's also a structure that's just built out of like cheap wood. Sure, it's a structure. But like I feel like if I kick it, it's like Tyler Myers falling. But you do have a great point though in that sense for sure.
I hear that.
Yeah,
I hear you. So are we in the second period or third period? So
we are actually
right in the middle.
We are actually heading into the third period right now.
Okay.
And to quickly do the third period ad read, it is about the Game Over merch. So you know what, Clay, even like when you left, we started making merch as well, which is honestly really comfy. I'm wearing it right now. This is one of the Game Over hoodies, and if you want to support us while staying comfy, this is honestly one of the ways to go. And Game Over has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch the Canucks, you gotta be supported. You gotta support us by rocking our clothing as well. Our apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs, with our retro skater, established, or our live and die design. Live and die by the goalie design. With anything hockey, we got you covered. Even if you're looking for some coffee mugs, if you need any Game Over merch, the link is in our bio.
Sweet.
So yeah, for the third period, I just wanted to quickly talk about, I guess, the media situation in general.
Yeah.
That is happening with the Canucks, because earlier this morning there was a report saying that Pasta and Marchand on the Boston Bruins had rifts, and they basically the argument that the reporter, I won't name names, but the reporter was saying that Pasta did not like playing with Marchand. And when I first read that, that kind of struck me as like this is kind of like if Alex Burrows said that he didn't like playing with the Sedins, because they've been playing together with so long, and then a few hours later, Marchand did a press conference, or talked to media more so, and said that, hey, nothing is happening between us. I love Pasta. So the point with that I was trying to make is, if we look at the Canucks, if we look at the entire situation with Miller and PD, and if you guys remember my Game Over shows before I left on vacation, you would know that I hated talking about the situation because at the end of the day, it's their personal thing. Even though, like, you could technically consider this Canucks media, that's the one thing that I didn't want to touch because of the fact that it's one, it's personal, and two, these guys are professional, they're grown adults, they could get through it. But one thing that I did realize is ever since Rutherford and Patrick Alvin have, I guess, come into the Canucks system, nothing has ever leaked.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Good point.
the Horvat trade was like, it was like expected that he'd be traded, but not to the Islanders. Hronik was out of left field. No
Yep.
one knew about the Zadorov trade. Brandstrom coming in was like, it was an extra bonus. A lot of it is like it. You don't really hear Canucks rumors at all. So when I look at the JT Miller and PD situation, and with, like, even though like Quinn Hughes and Tocchet did somewhat agree that there was somewhat of a rift,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this is me personally, I think them, if there are talks about JT Miller being traded or PD possibly being traded with the front office that we have, I think it's BS. I think they're trying to stray away from the bigger picture. I don't know what that bigger picture is, but whenever I see a trade rumor of that, like, JT Miller to the Rangers, I look at it and laugh. I might look like a fool if he does get traded, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I agree
yeah.
with you completely. And isn't it crazy how you left for a 2-week trip to the Philippines and you're still hearing the same rumors when you got back? Isn't that crazy?
Exactly. It's just like I hear these rumors at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So this is like to me, it's more so like that's the first thing that I see on my phone.
Yeah. I'm with you, and I don't care. Kind of same boat as you, Mark. Like, I don't care if I look silly or look naive. I it's not even that I don't want them to trade either guy, because actually, truth be told, I don't want them to trade either guy. I think you're going to lose that trade no matter what, no matter who, and I do think that these guys, they don't have to be best, but you even saw it today. Like, I'm not sure how Miller gave Pettersson a quick tap to the butt with a stick after a scoring chance or whatever. They passed to each other. I think there's something there for sure, but I also don't think, maybe I'm being naive, that it's big enough to wreck the team and to make them trade one of them. So if I had to bet, I'm betting that they're both Canucks next season. I really am. So not only do I not want them to trade, I don't think they will. I'm with you. And I think that they wouldn't have committed to Petey in the offseason. Like, they're not too proud to admit they made a mistake, but that's a big mistake. If you trade him away after signing him to that contract, I don't know. And it's not because Petey negotiated that no movement clause. It's because you can't get one until you're 27 years old. That's the why he doesn't have one for the first year of this 8-year deal. So it wasn't like he had negotiating power. No, you can't have a no move until you turn 27. So all to say, I think they're both here, and it goes back to the very first thing we talked about on the show is Petey's got to figure it out.
Fair. Also, just a quick thing. I don't know if you're also reading chat, Clay, but the talk about like the Canucks defense, it's great. I love it. I love it when this happens in chat. Just because it's kind of like my ADHD kicking in, where it's like if I'm watching something, I have a side screen. So yeah, thank you, chat, for that.
What are they saying?
They're basically talking about how so
give DPD time, right? Yeah, I saw that.
Time.
Yeah.
Let's see. I know. So Scott White says, I know people like to rag on Juleson, but just remember that we got him by trading Olli Juolevi.
Yep.
So at least Benning got a serviceable D-man back and a former first-round pick. And as a Surrey boy, we got a former Surrey boy back, so I will always support.
So should I feel that way about Troy Stetcher then? We got to go get him back as a Richmond boy?
Oh, you know what? Honestly, might as well. He's gonna fly in. He flies in, and he flies in straight to home. So
yeah, I like it.
But David W in chat does say the Miller Center PD rift has been going on for weeks, but the Canucks have a more pressing issue with a lack of effective puck movers when the bot 6 forward group is on the blue line. Oh, and on the blue line, which it's fair. It's I think I feel like we would talk about the bot six a lot more if what's it called? If it wasn't for the PD and Miller situation. And if anything, I might just transition this into overtime here, which is basically just us talking to chat for the next few minutes. But it's a very good point where I think last season we were spoiled with Dak, Bluger, and Garland being part of our bot six. It did kind of help that we were kind of playing like fourth line players with PD, just so it kind of evened out for a little bit. But I think a lot of our success last year came from the fact that we were able to spread our depth. But now, considering that we have I'd say like a somewhat of a solid top six, but I think removing Garland, even though Garland does deserve to be on the top six, removing him off of that third line does kind of spread it thin, where there isn't really anyone else. Because I personally think the best skater on the team is Max Sesson. But he's also, this is still his rookie season, and he's playing with players who are just as fast, if not faster than him, with better stick handling. Danton Heinen, personally, I haven't really been impressed with his puck handling going into the zone. So it's a great point, honestly, David.
And you know, I remember last year, Mark, that PD's line is basically the third line because you had Miller, Besser, Suter. Then you had, you're right, Bluger between Garland and Joshua. And then, of course, when Lindholm came for the playoffs, that kind of messed everything up. But PD, I think, started the year with Kuzmenko and Hoglander, if I'm not mistaken. Like he didn't have the best wingers last season for sure. So to get DeBrusque and to hope, so I really hope they refine their chemistry because they've been off and on. So you keep Miller, Besser together, you keep DeBrusque and PD together, and if it's, I would love either play Suter up with Miller and Besser, put Lekkerimäki with PD and DeBrusque, and then go when he's healthy, go Joshua, Bluger, Garland, and then your fourth line can be Sasson between whoever, PDG, Hoglander, pick your guy there. I would love to see that, but they got to be healthy to do that for sure.
Very fair.
And, sorry, I think I forgot Sherwood. Sherwood then in that configuration would be your fourth line. Sherwood's been good. Tonight I did notice though, like he's a good goal scorer for a bottom six, but there are a couple chances where I thought he kind of donked, right? He put one over the net or wide, and another one you might remember in the third period, it looked like it was going to be a 2-on-1 or a breakaway in for him. And he didn't even do anything. He
just passed it. He passed it behind Heinen.
Yes, that's right.
And
that's right.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It's not his job.
That's true.
He got a lot of really nice goals. Like a few games. Well, I'd say that was like before I left, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no,
like
he
before,
went on that hot streak.
Yeah, he had a goal hot streak, which, if anything, it wasn't necessarily his expectation. It's more of a he's exceeding that. But right. I think personally, I feel like Lekkerimäki, as much as I would like before the season, like I wanted Lekkerimäki to play beside Pettersson, but after seeing DeBrusque, PD, and Sherwood, I think like I love that. Honestly, it was
that's fair.
It's like West Coast Express light, where you have
Sherwood does make space for them. That's true.
It makes space for them, and he's also a big hitter, and it allows DeBrusque and P to focus more on their offensive game.
Okay.
Right? Like
then you could that's true. Then you could put Lekkerimäki with Besser and Miller if you want, and then Suter can properly and Bluger can take your third, fourth center spots like they did today. Yeah, that's true.
That makes sense, because like at least because Miller's playing center on that line, right? But he is also the only, like, you're basically playing, because both Besser and Lekkerimäki are both right-handed.
Yes.
So you're playing two right-handed players on the wings. But
that's true.
Miller, when he came in, he was mainly a left winger with PD and just developed into a center. But what's stopping them into just having Miller play face-offs and then him moving onto the left and have Besser in the middle. Because like Besser technically already kind of plays bumper anyways in the power play, so he's used to being in the slot.
Yeah, but we just ragged on his skating for an hour.
Which is true, but like, hey man,
yeah,
he's got to grow somehow.
No, I know, but you're gonna have Jack Eichel coming down the middle, and you're gonna look. Where's Besser? Oh, he's on the opposing blue line still.
But yeah. Also, just to chat, we are somewhat wrapping things up here. So we can take a few more, I guess, questions from chats. Raymond, it does say all contracts should have 1 year trial before the rights for any NMC and NTC in effect. I completely agree. I was looking at the, what's it called? Oh, well, I agree to an extent.
Right.
Because here, for one, we look at the Daniel Sprong trade when we traded him to the Kraken. If this happened in NHL 25, I would get a notification that says you shouldn't trade players too early. No, like actually, it would be like, that's gonna make your GM score go down. But like, it's kind of like it's a mental thing where it's like you get signed to a contract, you're expected to be there for a year, but then after a month, you're like, nope, just kidding, we're sending you back. Granted, it was the right decision. I don't know what those future considerations are. Yeah. But if those future considerations are a high five, it kind of works out because he went on waivers a few days ago.
That's true. We should have just got him back just to go full circle.
Honestly, like I know he's not a top ship level player. Yeah. Like he doesn't fit. Like him, I put Sprong is like Kuzmenko in the sense that like he works best as a free flowing player. Who. Yeah, like he plays rogue. Like I remember like when he scored that one 5-on-1 goal in preseason, everyone was like, "Oh, I love Daniel Sprong." But then you see him play defense and you're like, "I don't know where he is."
By the way, Kings beat the Jets. Awesome. Great.
Nah, that's cool. Don't the Kings also have like a few games like less than us too?
No, we're about equal. I just care about Calgary right now. I just worry about Calgary.
Yeah.
Who aren't playing tonight? Yeah.
Oh. No, that's very, very fair.
We just gotta beat Toronto tomorrow, and everything will be fine. Then everyone can have a good rest of the weekend.
I think that's gonna be the enigma. As soon as we beat Toronto, everything's gonna go back to normal like that.
There you go.
Yeah, like Toronto losing. I need Boston to be good again. I need Toronto to be bad again.
Yeah.
But yeah. Other than that, if there isn't any other questions from chat, Clay, was there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, just happy to be here, man. I want to support you and what Game Over is doing. I had a really good 2 years, so it's really cool that you got the Patreon, you got the merch, you got other ways to get involved. So yeah, anytime you want me back, happy to join you. Always love talking about this team, and it was really good to reconnect with you personally as well, Mark. So keep up the good work, man.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the kind words, and you were welcome back anytime.
Sounds good.
That being said, I just wanted to, I just want to say thank you to everyone that stuck by, with tonight's episode. I want to say that this past hour has been a lot more entertaining than the last 2 hours of that Canucks game. Actually, we do have a quick question. Do you think had we won a ton of games as of right now, do you think this 940 Rift thing would even be talked about? Yes. I 100% agree that it would still be talked about. It would be more so talked about in the more personal light, but at the end of the day, it's Canucks media. They're going to pick apart every single part of...
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I think it would be not as much, obviously, and it would be, look how the Canucks are doing despite this, not... what it is right now. The Canucks are playing poorly because of this. There's a huge difference there.
Yeah, but yeah, I do agree. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys all for coming out. Clay, did you want to give a quick shout out to your channel as well?
Yeah, thanks. I saw some familiar faces in here, Mark, and I saw some new names as well. For anyone who wants to follow along with Game Over Vancouver, some other Canucks content, local Canucks content, I do live streams 5 nights a week. So not Friday and Saturday. This is my night off, so it was perfect to join Mark. But Sunday through Thursday, I have a show at 11 p.m. on my channel, which is just my name, Canuck Clay. So you can find me on YouTube. We would love for you to join the conversation there.
The link is actually in the bio.
Thank you.
Awesome. But yeah, have a good night, everyone. Take care.